Okay, we are now live.
All right, I will run this temporarily until Earl gets his technical problems solved. So we'll call this meeting of the Cheshire Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission to order at 7:34 p.m. Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Someone has managed to put a flag up. So if we recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag.
of the
United States of America,
for which it stands,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we don't have our regular secretary here tonight. So
Would you like me to read it, Dr. Dimick?
Suzanne, could you call the roll for us, please?
Sure. Dave Brzezowski,
Here.
Charles Dimick,
Present?
Tom Norbeck,
present.
Tim Graver,
Present.
Earl Kurtz, present with technical difficulties, Carrie Dunn, absent, and Will McPhee, absent. We have a quorum.
Yes, we do have a quorum. Thank you very much. Next item is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of July 20th. I didn't send out any corrections because I seem to have lost the minutes. So we have received printed copies of the minutes. If anyone have any problems with the printed copies that they have received of the minutes, if you bothered to go through them.
I didn't attend that meeting.
You didn't attend that meeting.
Dr.
Well,
Dimick, would you like
we-
me to resend you a copy?
Yeah, that will happen. I have the printed one. If you send me a email copy of it, I can go over and find out. I lost 2 or 3 things off my computer, and that may have been one of the things that disappeared and I didn't know about.
Okay,
So,
I will do
we
that.
can tentatively accept the minutes subject to future correction. Is there any problem with doing that? If there's no
well, they
objection.
would just get correct, they would be accepted tonight, and then the commission could make changes, and then Carla could make those changes at the next meeting.
Right.
Minutes, yes.
The way it works, you can correct minutes at any time. You can even go back
Yes.
and correct minutes from several years back if necessary. So is there any objection to accepting the minutes in the present form, subject to future correction?
Nope.
Okay, if not, that's what we will do. Suzanne, we have 5 communications. You want to go through those?
Yes, the first communication is from Michael Antonetti, and those are suggested changes to the corrective order. That's under enforcement actions tonight. Number 2 is a construction sequence for 350 Wallingford Road. That's under unfinished business. Number 3 is information that the commission had requested for tank secondary containment for request for determination Elam Park, and that is under unfinished business. 4th is a request for determination and an application from Scotland Hardwoods for a property on Wallingford Road for a forestry project. Both of those are under new business. And 5 is a bond release request for FIP project on West Johnson Avenue. And that is it for communications.
Thank you, Suzanne. Do we have any written inspections?
No written inspections.
Staff inspections?
Staff inspection for the Coleman Road property that they are starting to do work on. They did cut the trees and they are just planning on putting up the silt fence. And I spoke with them for the location of where to install that. And that is it for inspections.
Did you not also check the FIP project?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, and they received their CO not so long ago. So from that initial inspection to now, the plants that were required as part of that plan are still thriving and looking good.
Yeah, I did a
Yes.
cursory inspection myself. I didn't go through the whole property, but it looked pretty good to me. Okay, under enforcement actions, first item is Mr. Heber Alvarenga, 720 Yalesville Road. What's our status on that one?
He completed the plantings as part of his corrective order, and he is waiting on the biologist to come out and do an observation and supply the commission with a written report.
Okay, so we keep it on the agenda until then.
Yes. Yes.
And the second item is the property has changed ownership at 152 Talmadge Road.
Yes, and at the last meeting, the commission had asked that
I
in
just,
addition to the letter that I had sent out, that I make contact with the new property owners. And I will, instead of just stopping by, I plan to send a letter out to them
gotta get a picture of
to
him.
ask for their help. And I believe that that is Earl that we can hear coming through on a separate audio.
I'm trying.
Sorry about it. We're trying to get hooked up properly here.
That's okay. We can hear you.
Thank you. We can hear you.
Okay. Excellent.
You hear us?
Yes, he can hear us.
Okay, good.
Yes.
He can hear and they can hear him, so.
All right. We will. when
Yeah,
we get
The
connected,
next item on the agenda is item number 3.
Michael
and this-
Antonetti, and he's looking, as I understand, for some changes in the corrective order that we had sent.
Yes, and Mr. Antonetti is on the call.
Mr. Antonetti, could you explain?
Yes. Hello, how are you? So a couple of things. I read the letter very thoroughly, and as I read through it, I just want some clarifications on a couple of things and ask some questions here. As you know, I've done everything you've asked so far. I did contact for the plants today. I have a cost to get them, and I just have to figure out how to get them delivered. Or I go pick them up if they don't deliver. But for the items I sent Suzanne regarding the orders, the first thing I wanted to address was the encroachment markings. Obviously, I plan on putting something here on my property. I'm well aware of wetlands now and what that means. I wasn't sure what the commission had in mind for that. So I'd rather not have to put signs all up around my property, except where, I'm going to put something to block it from the children here accessing it. So I'd like to at least waive that, or see if, we just put a couple of signs up to say wetlands for my property.
Normally, what we've done is had putting some posts at the wetland boundary with a marker on the post. Suzanne,
Okay.
in fact, has some official markers available.
Okay.
Suzanne, clarify that part?
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
so we just would put them from my property, because like I said, from my point of view, anybody approaching my property is trespassing, so I want to do it so I don't have my children go on there. I guess we could put a few in other places.
You do it on your
Yes.
property,
Okay,
along the wetland boundary at, suitable spacing. along
And Dr. Dimick, if I could just clarify that the commission had talked about putting it at the non-encroachment area as opposed to the wetland boundary. And
I'll agree with that, because
and that it
I'd like
would
everybody
be-
to know.
Yes, and that what was written in the corrective order was the standard language, that it would be just for on the property, so that it's not expected to ring around the property so that other property owners can see the wetland boundary markers as they approach to the back of your property. It's really for your benefit to see where the boundary is so that you can't go past that area. That's
Okay,
the intent.
Okay, perfect.
And
Okay,
we do have the markers that we sell for $1 a piece, and they fit flush on a 4x4 post.
great. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna probably come see you soon.
Yeah, go down to Home Depot or Lowe's and get one of these treated 4x4s and cut it to length so that you could drive them in the ground enough they won't fall over, and put the little marker on the top of the post.
Okay, perfect. As we get going in the back, we'll get that in there. And then when I do the plantings, I'll put them in.
Yeah.
Okay, fair. The next one was on item 4. I mean, I read this very seriously and I want to make sure I restore where I've damaged and it's kept that, you know, there is invasive species back there and I did go cut down all the knotweed. And I assure you, it's not just where I did anything. I did as much as I could. It's not easy. When Jen was out here, she made it very clear this is difficult at best to manage. So I just wanted to make sure it says I have to make sure I repair what I've damaged and do my best to keep it all that way in the area I damaged clearly. That's all. The
Yeah,
way I read it, it means everywhere.
it took me 3 years to get rid of the knotweed in my yard. I had to dig it up 3 years in a row. It's have to persist on it. And if
Yeah.
you disturb a lot of soil, just throw a little wetland type. There's a bunch of different seed things out there that are good for wetland plants. Just sprinkle that in the ground, and it pretty much recovers itself.
Awesome. Okay. And that's part of the plan. I sent Suzanne the list of the plantings. I did add extra shrubs on, 1 extra shrub of each type at least. And I think I did 1 or 2 extra bush trees. So I plan on doing more, which leads me to, you know, the cost to do this is a little bit more than I anticipated, actually expected. And the biologist now it's a $500 bill to walk on the property just to say, hey, I planted right. And then next year it's $500. The plantings are less than $600 in total. By my thought is I could plant every year and equal just somebody telling me it's growing. If we could just get some work with the town here to be reasonable here. I've taken this very seriously. That's why I've made comments about number 2, and I'm just trying to move forward. And I understand I have an obligation to restore it.
I'm not sure if any other member of the commission wants to comment on that at this point. I wasn't expecting the chair tonight because I was expecting to get Earl back here and running things. In fact, Earl, anytime you want to come in and take over again, feel free.
I just have a question. The 3-year to have them have it analyzed or inspected every year for 3 years. Is that standard?
Yes, that has been the standard language and length of time for other corrective orders that have been issued over the past several years.
Okay.
This was not site specific. It was just in keeping with other corrective orders.
So standard language. Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure just what to suggest because we are trying to be consistent and treat everyone the same here. And yes, in some cases, some people find it a bigger hardship than others. I have no suggestions.
This is a hardship.
So, okay, I would just like some consideration on it. And, you know, like I said, it wasn't like it was an act of malice. I'm not selling the property or anything. It's just, I'm trying to restore it and not run away and try to hide here. So.
I would suggest that in a year, if you ask us to revisit the instructions in a year, we'd be willing to revisit them. But
Okay, fair.
We have to keep what we have.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, and so like I said, the wording, I just would like the wording to clearly state, you know, I have every intention to repair where I damaged, but I'm just overwhelmed. It's a fairly large area with a lot. The hand picking out knotweed after I plant and seed is going to be quite a burden, that's all.
You've got knotweed. You also have moldy floral rose back there, I believe.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out my plants, I'll tell you that.
It takes a while. I mean,
Sure.
my own yard, which is not wetland, but nevertheless, all these invasive species come in. It took me several years to get rid of everything of the invasive sort. That's part of why they're invasive. They just overwhelm all the native vegetation if you're not careful.
Sure. I would, maybe when I put the encroachment signs and the plantings in before I put the seed down, I may ask for somebody to come out and help me identify stuff maybe one day when we do a site walk. I'd appreciate that.
Well, Mr. Antonetti, before
Sure.
you put the markers up, that's something that you and I will coordinate as to where the
Perfect.
markers will be located.
All right.
So
Okay.
we'll have opportunity then. And
All right.
Dr. Dimick, just a thought is if the commission was interested in clarifying the language so that it indicates that the commission only expects that the area that was disturbed is the area to be restored, I can write a letter to that effect and add it onto the corrective order so that there's no additional revision that's needed. It's something that could be handled right now at tonight's meeting.
Sure.
If in fact, is there any objection from members of the commission for Suzanne to write that clarifying letter?
No, but I got a question. The knotweed, how did that become Mr. Antonetti's problem? I mean, why is he otherwise, I mean, besides it's a freaking curse on the earth, why is it his responsibility to get rid of all the knotweed?
I think we're talking only the areas where he's asked to restore it, to try to restore it with native vegetation. The rest of it, if it's the rest of the site that he hasn't been asked to restore, that's full of that stuff, then that's a case of personal preference to get rid of it, not one of our instructions.
All right.
And Tom, I
So-
believe that
so
that was,
why
I believe that
even-
that was added because of a concern of the survivability of the native plants in and around knotweed.
Because of
so-
knotweed will kick.
So
would
where
be
the path was cleared, if he was to just revegetate along that path, the knotweed on either side of that path would overwhelm the plantings. And then he would have paid all this money for these plantings that would just end up dying because that knotweed would outcompete for resources and sunlight and all of that.
If I was a betting man, I'd bet on the knotweed. You can't kill that stuff.
Just remember that in a couple of years if I try my best here.
Man, oh man. All right. Well, anyway, good luck. Keep up
Okay.
the good work.
There is
Thank
a
you.
native knotweed in my lawn, but it only gets about 3 inches high. It's a totally different species.
Okay,
Okay, let's move ahead if we can.
thank you.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Excuse me 1 second, please. This is Earl.
Oh, no.
Hi, for continuity, I'd rather not try to run the meeting because this fades in and out, and I think it'll only cause confusion. I do have a few things to say, or I may, and I'll say them, and if it doesn't go through, it doesn't go through. But as far as having an orderly meeting, I'm not sure I can depend on the way this is hooked up. So if you don't mind, I'd leave it the way it is and try to participate as needed. Is that satisfactory?
Okay, do I get overtime pay for doing this?
Double your usual.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, item 4. Notice unauthorized activities, wetland area and water course, Michael and Amanda Clay, 42 Trout Brook Road. I believe that's progressing.
Yes, it is. They still have 2 fruit trees that they are waiting on to plant in the upland area. Vegetation along the stream has come back, and so it is shading out the stream, as well as they did put in all of the plantings along the bank as discussed. So they are nearly complete.
Oh, that's wonderful. Can't wait to the day we can take one more item off our agenda.
Yes,
So let's hope that continues.
yes.
Questions of other members of the commission on this item? If not, we go to 5, which is a big one, show cause hearing, unauthorized activities in the wetland area and water course at 609 Maple Avenue. It seems to me we've had that one in front of us before.
Yes, Dr. Dimick, we have, and we received a call from a neighbor on Thursday afternoon as this packet was going out to commission members about activity that had taken place alongside the stream. And also in the staff report, the commission will see that about a week or 2 prior, I received a phone call from an attorney who was representing McMillan, who was inquiring about doing work along the stream, and he was informed that any work within 50 feet of that stream would require review and approval from the Wetlands Commission. So then fast forward to the following week, and we get a phone call from a neighbor who indicated that the area had been cleared. And her primary concern was that they had cleared also on her property, and she wanted it to be known that the clearing that took place was not her doing and that she did not create any problems. Staff from our office, the zoning enforcement and wetlands enforcement officer, went out to the site and took the picture that I sent to the commission. And it does show that the area was recently cleared. I then had a follow-up conversation with their attorney, the attorney that I spoke with. And he indicated that he wanted to be involved in the call tonight and to follow up. We dropped the show cause hearing notice because we have 10 days that we have to provide this notice, 10 days before the meeting. And we went and tried to get someone who was there at the house. They weren't there, and the letter was left. So we don't have evidence that somebody received the letter. So my suggestion is that we're not able to proceed with the show cause hearing because no one is here. And I don't have evidence that they are in receipt of that. So what I'd like to do is leave this on the agenda for the next meeting. I'll issue a cease and desist, send that either certified or by a marshal tomorrow, so that at least they're on notice that they have to stop everything and we have evidence that they received it. And then 10 days before the September meeting, I will send out a show cause hearing notice that requires them to come to the meeting. And that also will either be sent certified or by marshal, so that we can get a signature and know that they received it, so that we are in compliance with due process and that they have the notice that's required.
Will you also make further contact with their attorney?
Yes, and I sent an email out to their attorney today with the copy of the show cause hearing, the agenda for tonight's meeting, and the Zoom link.
And there is nobody here, not even the attorney tonight.
No.
Okay.
So I will follow up, and I will also then send them a copy of the certified letter. A certified mail request of a certified letter.
As far as I'm concerned, there is a history on this. And
Yes, there is.
who owns the property?
So who owns the property is Art McMillan Jr., and it's my understanding that he lives out of state. The work was being conducted by Anthony McMillan, from the information that I've received. So it was Anthony McMillan that we were attempting to give this notice to. We do not have a mailing address on him, but that is something that we will work on. We see that the property owner, Art McMillan, his mailing address is still 609 Maple Avenue, even though the information that I have is that he does not live in the state.
Well, was that his wife who owned it for a while? I just go to the
Yes.
history, like 20 years old, and she's not involved anymore in the ownership?
No, she's not listed as the owner. No.
I don't keep track of these people, but it was my understanding that Anthony lived out of state and Art Jr. lived in Cheshire, but evidently that's changed. I think
Oh,
that's
I
one of the
had
things
heard,
right.
I was thinking it was the other way around. I was thinking
Well,
that it
whatever,
was,
I'm not, all I'm saying is we gotta make sure we investigate so we
yes.
find a proper person. Probably Jamie Winters would be the one to make sure everything's straight on that for you.
Yes, and as this happened on Thursday and I was working to get this agenda together and get all this information out, we weren't able to verify everything and to track everybody down. But I was hoping, in speaking with their attorney, that they would attend tonight.
You know, as a general comment, it seems all the years I've been on this commission, every time we think we have things running smoothly, something else comes in. And this is the one for tonight. Just, I kind of reminded the dermatologist, you know, patients never die and they never get well.
We have some perennial offenders, that's for sure.
That's for sure. All
Okay,
right.
so I
Well,
will keep this on the agenda then.
okay.
But
Thank
please
you.
check with Jamie to make sure you got the right owner and everything else and where he
Yes,
is.
I will. I will.
Thank you.
Moving ahead then to unfinished business. Permit application Kim and Ravi Date, 350 Wallingford Road, pond restoration. They have sent us a map and details that we had been waiting for, so we get a clearer picture of just what it was they intend to do. I think you all received that in your packet. At least for me, I at least finally know what they're doing. I don't know about the rest of you.
Yeah, and there was one update to the the step-by-step plan. Number 15 is new. It ties together with the map, where it basically says that the exact point where the stream outflow is, where it exits the pond, that's not known at this point. However, it will tie into the existing stream at the edge of our property. So it depends on what they find when they dig. It may be the same spot where the underground pipe is currently. It may be that same spot, or it may be another spot if that one works out better.
Suzanne, have you had time to go over the additional data?
I have reviewed it, yes. And it seems to be in keeping with what the commission had requested, and it gives a clearer idea of what the proposal is.
So our other members of the commission have looked at this, the information?
Yes.
I've looked at it.
Any problems? Tom, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm fading in now, not my video or my audio. I'm sorry, I missed that, Charles. I wasn't paying attention.
That's all right. It's 40 years as a professor. I had students fall asleep in class too. It happens. Anyway, looking over this, did you see any problem with what they're proposing? I say it looks good to me, but
Oh, no. I thought it was particularly good, as a matter of fact.
yeah.
The,
Are we ready to move ahead then, Suzanne, if the commission is in agreement?
We do not have a draft motion for tonight, but the mandatory action date has been voluntarily by the applicant extended to September 7th, which is the next meeting.
Okay, I would suggest that you prepare the proper wording, because I think the commission is ready to go ahead on this.
I do have one question. I'm sorry, Chairman Dimick. The item 15, and I guess it's a question for the Dates. Item 15 is just applying to the overflow stream or the outlet stream. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. The inlet is the same.
The inlet is set. Okay.
Exactly the same. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. Second item under unfinished business, permit application, Jennifer Spinach, Wallingford Road, watercourse stabilization. Where do we stand on that?
Mr. Carson is
would-
on the call.
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening, commissioners. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Okay, very good. For the record, I am David Carson, one of the principals of the OCC group representing the applicant. As stated in the project narrative, the applicant is essentially seeking reapproval of an expired permit for watercourse stabilization. Site conditions have continued to deteriorate over the past 5 years, but the basic requirements for stabilization as detailed on the plan remain unchanged. That being said, on behalf of my client, I would be remiss if I did not mention how distraught my client is with regard to the continuing erosion resulting from prior upstream development. From inspecting the site, it is readily apparent that the increased runoff from that upstream development has not been effectively mitigated by the stormwater management facilities that were installed. This fact, however, in no way alters the need for a permit to stabilize existing conditions. I just felt I needed to get that on the record because Ms. Spinach she was quite upset 5 years ago. She's more upset now. And as I stated, I mean, I'm sure the commission is aware of the additional impervious upstream development. There is a stormwater detention basin in there with outlet control structure, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that the stream continues to erode and its only source of water is from that upstream development.
What,
Mhm.
Dave, did you research if the stormwater management there was done as proposed?
No, I didn't. And, the simple fact that I have no doubt that, I have little doubt, that the calculations for the design of that, were correct. I mean, everything, we do the same thing. Everything is theoretical. This just appears from a practical standpoint to be a case where I'm certain that the upstream facilities probably mitigated the peak flow, but that doesn't change the fact that there is an increase and the velocity of the water coming down in these soil conditions just continues to erode the stream bed and the stream banks. Unfortunately, the stream is not straight. It has, it has several little S turns in it. And of course, that's a recipe for erosion if you have any kind of velocity. And so the proposed plan is designed to correct that condition. It's certainly not going to change the volume of water. It will somewhat decrease the velocity. If this wasn't a separate piece of property, disjointed from where the outfall is, I would say that the velocity probably should be ameliorated at the outlet structure from the detention basin before it gets to this point.
This house is over 100 years old, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. Yep. The stream's been there. And I remember the stream very well because we designed Old Town Condominium. And this was just a little stream that, I mean, had 4 inches of water in it.
Yeah, as I remember seeing it over the years, there are times when it's bone dry and there's time when you're wondering where all the water is coming from.
Right. Right. It's just, peak flow conditions during a storm event. It just roars down through there, and the soils are such that just erodes away.
Can you state for the record again why it is the work was not done 5 years ago?
Initially, Miss Spinach was getting prices to do the work. For whatever reason, she had to leave to go to California, and she was stuck in California for the previous 2 years because of medical conditions and COVID. So she just didn't get around to it.
Suzanne, you had prepared draft motion last time around for doing the work.
The draft motion is prepared for tonight, yes.
Any other questions for the engineer? Commission members?
No.
Someone willing to put forth the draft motion as wording?
I'll move staff wording.
I'll
Bill
second.
Kurtz has moved staff wording. Tom Norback has seconded the motion. I tell you, it's so nice in Zoom that I can't forget people's names because they're right in front of me. So my one weakness is taken care of there. Any further discussion? Sensing you're ready to vote, all in favor signify by raising your right hand. All
Aye.
opposed, same sign. Okay, vote in the affirmative and so ordered. Unanimous of
Commissioners.
members present.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Good
Thank
to
you.
see you again, David.
It's good to see you. I wish I was sitting where you're sitting instead of in my office.
Well, this is the actually the meditation garden at the church, and it's a
Oh,
fake background just because my office is so messy.
well, you can meditate after the meeting.
Yeah.
Good night.
Or
All
meditate.
right. That brings us to unfinished business, item 3, Weiss Road Dam Repair and Maintenance. Suzanne sent out a proposed wording for a draft motion today on that. And we had a very short discussion. It has to do with the fact that the property splits the watershed. So the property on the northwest corner of this development runs into Honey Pot Brook and the main channel Honey Pot Brook and goes north. And the water that falls on the development on the eastern side goes across the road and ends up on the other branch of Honey Pot Brook and over towards the Broad Brook Reservoir. So the original wording of Suzanne's motion mentioned the Broad Brook Reservoir, but my reading of it is that the dam itself is the main channel for the Honey Pot.
Yes, and so Dr. Dimick, then I propose that for that finding to just remove the language that drains to Broad Brook Reservoir, a public drinking water supply. So instead, number 2 would say that the site is located within the Honey Pot Brook watershed.
Thank you. I think that's a technical change. It doesn't need to change the rest of it.
Thank you.
Anyone wish to move staff wording and with that correction?
Almost ready.
Well, we got Tim and Earl tied on that. I'm
I'll
gonna
second.
recognize, I'll recognize
I'll second.
Tim as moving it and Earl is seconding it. Looking for discussion. I think we mentioned last time, if there had been a house on this property, we wouldn't actually need a permit to do this. But as it is, it does need a permit. It's maintenance of an existing dam, a Class A dam, according to the state. Any discussion? Sensing you're ready to vote. All in favor signify by raising your right hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Unanimous vote of commission members present to grant the permit for this dam work. DAM, not DAM, sorry.
Either way,
Four.
I am work.
Under unfinished business, Orchard View Associates LLC, Weiss Road, Lot 20, site plan house. This is the one left over from last time because some people on the commission wanted to take another look at this particular parcel. This is the one in the southeast corner. Tim, I think you were one of them that wanted to look.
I did, yeah. I was there yesterday, and I put together a short summary. I didn't have a chance to fill it out though. This was regarding lot 20. I was there yesterday between 2:30 and 3:15. It was 77 degrees and mostly sunny, and I didn't track the last rain event, but it had been many days previous. I walked from the proposed Melrose Drive off of Weiss Road over the crest of the hill through the grass field to the lot 20, mainly to view the wetland boundary that was marked off just during the previous week. And I did see, the lot's fully covered in tall grass, 3 feet or higher in height right now. At the crest of the hill slopes down into lot 20 and towards the wetlands area. There is black silt fencing in place. The question that I had, just asking if that silt fence is located as identified on SLR's drawing number 20 Orchard View subdivision from the 12th of July. Just for my estimation of looking at it, I believe that it is as it's noted on the drawing, but I wanted to get verification of that.
Ryan?
Yep.
I'd be happy to chime in. For the record, my name is Ryan McAvoy. I'm a licensed professional engineer with SLR Consulting. And while we didn't survey the exact location of the silt fence, we did have correspondence or discussions with the contractor. And I believe that they had put it in accordance with the plan. Although, like I said, we didn't go out and survey it. It's my understanding that it's roughly correct.
Okay. Okay. I did see the orange tag stakes identifying the wetland boundary. Those were very obvious. There's lots of deer trails through the grassed area and lots of tracks in the upland review and the wetland areas. I did notice in the upland review area, there were several low spots where water would collect in a rain event, puddles, if you will. However, the day I was there, the grass was dry and the top of the soil, I also noted, were dry. Just across into the wetland area, the grass was depressed down and the soil was moist, and it was not very far, it was the top of the soil was moist. And through the wetlands, there's an area of about 20 feet wide where the tall grass is knocked down, and that's leading to the property to the south of lot 20. And it looks like the grass had been knocked down fairly recently. The conclusion that I had after looking around lot 20, due to the slope of the ground and knowing that the grass is a very seasonal vegetation, it's not going to be there year round. And especially due to the slope going over the top of the hill down towards the wetlands, I didn't see any reason to reduce the width of the upland review area to less than the 50-foot requirement. Basically, as the silt fence roughly runs along the boundary of the upland review area. And just looking at the site and what was there when I made the site walk, I saw no reason that it should be changed from that. And that's all I had to report.
I too did a site visit yesterday, and while I don't have the record keeping inclinations of Tim, I would agree with him. I don't see any sense in moving it. It's fine as it was originally proposed.
So what we've got, because we got these two parts, a request for determination and a application there, it sounds to me, summarizing, that the commission is not in favor of declaring that this does not need a permit, that if they want to go through with the change in the boundary, that they're going to have to make a formal permit application to do so. Is that people's judgment? In other words, they have a perfect right to ask, but they have to do it through a permit process.
Yeah, I would say they'd have to go through the permit process.
Okay, doing this stepwise, then the first part then is to rule on the request for determination. And I'm looking for someone to move that the commission has determined the proposed activities will require a permit.
I would move that the proposed activities do indeed require a permit.
Suddenly went, you went still on us there, Tom.
I did?
Yeah. Your screen suddenly froze up for a second. You're back on again. So if I understand, you're proposing that we've decided the proposed activity does need a permit.
Indeed, that's what I'm proposing.
Second that.
Seconded by Tim Graver. Okay, that is the motion in front of us concerning request for determination. All in favor of ruling that the activity does require a permit, signify by raising your right hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, unanimous of commission members present. So thus, we're at the point of receiving the permit application for lot 20, which is item 5 under unfinished business. Suzanne, I'm temporarily lost. Where do I go from here?
Okay, so the commission, having just determined that a application for a permit is needed, that brings us to item number 5. And now the commission can evaluate, given the statement that and observations that Tim had stated on the record, if the commission is leaning towards granting an approval for the 25-foot reduction, or asking for a discussion with the applicant's engineer to see if there's potential to just restore the 50-foot upland review area. There was previous conversation to that effect. So I guess I would turn it over to Ryan to ask what his thoughts are if the applicant is determined to move forward with the 25-foot reduction or willing to modify the plans to show a 50-foot.
Thank you. Thank you, Suzanne. Since this is the new item on the agenda, I'll state my name again for the record. My name is Ryan McAvoy. I'm a licensed professional engineer here on behalf of the applicant. And the reasoning why we have the non-encroachment line about 25 feet off the wetland is primarily, well, it's solely because this is a field or property that's been hayed, cut regularly over several decades. And the only, in fact, that you probably saw the grass, Mr. Graver, higher than it's been in decades. So what we were looking to do is just merely, continue to keep that in a essentially a lawn or established condition, and then allowing for a 25-foot non-encroachment line to the wetland, which, as you noted, Mr. Graver is, I believe, encroached upon by the neighbor to the south, and has been for some time. But regardless, I don't think it's something that the applicant wants to hold up the application process, given especially that you only meet once in August. But I'm willing to entertain a discussion on the matter, but it's not something that I think the applicant is going to want to hold up his construction of the lot. We have received approval from Chespercut Health District, so there's no need to construct any element of the septic system beyond the 50-foot upland review area. So with that in mind, I guess I'd just like to see if there's any other questions the commission may have. If the sense is that a 25-foot non-encroachment line is not something that would be considered this evening, I'd be happy to suggest or on behalf of the applicant propose the non-encroachment line be established at the 50-foot upland review boundary.
And Dr. Dimick, to that point, seeing as how we are virtual, usually in in-person meetings, someone representing the applicant would mark up a plan and sign it and date it. So then we had something for the record. Seeing as how we're exclusively online, how I would propose that the commission would go about that if the commission was inclined and was looking for the 50-foot upland review area, is that we would just document it that the applicant had modified the proposal and was now showing a 50-foot buffer area, and that a plan showing that would be subsequently sent to our office.
Yeah, and he could, Ryan could send us to your office an email stating all of that, so we have something time stamped for this particular meeting
And also then to, yes, and to show that there is a change to the,
Yeah.
That the site plan would show that the 50-foot area has been restored. And then to that end, if the commission was inclined, much of the language regarding inspections and bonding for this was done with the understanding that it was a reduction of the upland review, or sorry, the buffer area by half. So I would then recommend item number 4 be, stipulation number 4 be removed, which requires a bond. And number 6 be removed, that requires ongoing inspection. That's
Okay.
if the commission feels comfortable that the restoration of the 50-foot area would be buffer enough.
So in the actual permit wording, we would remove that which is not relevant and add a clause which says, nevertheless, the commission denies the request to change the 50-foot setback.
That could be a finding that the commission declined
Yeah.
the reduction.
Just so that's in the actual thing, because the map that's in front of us has the reduction.
Yes,
So in the permit we issue, we have to deal with that part of the original request.
Could
yes.
this be condition
Ryan?
added that the
Sorry, Ryan,
non-encroachment
we-
line be established along the 50-foot upland review boundary?
I'm sorry, Ryan, we lost you there for a little bit. We didn't hear
I
what
was
you said.
just suggesting a condition to replace one of those, that the upland review, that the non-encroachment line be established along the 50-foot upland review boundary. And then it becomes a condition just like any other condition.
Mhm.
Okay, so then for item number 3, then no disturbance of any kind, including establishment, shall be allowed beyond the 50-foot upland review area / boundary identified on, it says on the above reference plans.
The above reference plan shall be modified so that the non-encroachment line be established along the 50-foot upland review boundary.
Very good, Ryan.
Sorry.
Very good.
Well, he's been listening to our regulations and our stipulations for years. It's sinking in.
Yeah, he's ready to write his own permits. That's pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah, right. Or maybe we should put him on the commission as a protection against that. Okay, do we understand the changes that are being proposed? I think it goes
I
along
do, yes.
with the findings that Tom and Tim made from their site visits. It's always helpful to look ground truth these things. And says this wording was actually, most of this wording was actually submitted at the last meeting. So we're just going back and fine tuning what's already been in front of us. What is your pleasure? First of all, we need to know whether someone will approve the staff wording with the changes.
I'll move the staff wording with the changes
That we have heard.
that we've,
I will second that.
yeah.
Okay, moved by Tom Norback, seconded by Tim Graver. It's now open to any further discussion. Earl, did you have any contribution?
No, I'm all for it.
Okay, well, that's good. Again, sensing you're ready to vote, all in favor signify by raising your right hand.
I,
Opposed, same
Aye.
sign. Looks like unanimous vote of the commission members present. Thank you very much, Ryan. And that brings us, okay, we're through those and we're up to permit application number 6 under unfinished business, Strathmore Holdings LLC, East Mitchell Avenue. We did, even though it's unfinished business, we did not get the plans until the mailing a week ago on this. And Suzanne, I understand that we sent this out for outside engineering review, and there was a series of questions
Yes.
concerning the detention ponds.
Yes, so this application was submitted to the commission at the last meeting, so it has the date of receipt of the last meeting. And it was then scheduled at that time to be discussed at tonight's meeting, that the applicant's engineer would provide an overview of the proposal. And in the meantime, it did go out to the engineering consultant for their review. They did get comments back yesterday. Those comments were shared with the commission as well as with Ryan McAvoy, and I had discussion with Ryan, and that there was no expectation that there would be comments prepared tonight to respond to the engineering comments. Tonight is to give the commission an overview so the commission can decide what's next, if this is something that's going to go to public hearing, or just to get familiar with it. So Ryan is here.
Shall I?
Yeah,
Yes.
go ahead.
Okay. Again, for the record, my name is Ryan McAvoy. I'm a licensed professional engineer with SLR Consulting, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Strathmore Holdings LLC. With your permission, Mr. Chairman and Acting Chairman, I'd like to share my screen.
Suzanne can handle that, I think.
Yes, you're all set, Ryan.
Okay. Hopefully this works. We'll see. Let me know when you can see.
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Okay. So this plan in front of you is an aerial map of the parcels that are the subject of this application. Our site is on the east side of East Mitchell Avenue, East Mitchell being located roughly central on this particular map, with north being to the right. So north is to the right and south is to the left, east is down, and west is up. So just to confuse things a little bit, I guess. And Strathmore Holdings owns or controls 5 abutting adjacent parcels, all at the end of East Mitchell Avenue. And because they're all owned by Strathmore Holdings, I'm going to refer to this as the project parcel or site, because that's the intent is to ultimately combine these parcels together. The combined parcel is 5.73 acres in size. And the individual parcels that make up the whole range from approximately 0.4 acres, some small, very narrow pieces of land, to about 2.5 acres, with some of the larger chunks being on the north. These properties are all located in the R40 zone presently. And they historically have had a couple of houses on them at the end of East Mitchell, one of which is shown roughly central on our plan, and one of which is shown a little bit to the east on this plan. Abutting land uses include Cheshire Hillside Village to the south or to the left on this map, an apartment complex, the name of which escapes me, but located to the north. Their property for the apartments does wrap around this site to the east, although to the east is all vacant forested land, and also includes the Honeypot Brook and associated floodplain. And to the west, there are, I believe, 3 properties that are on East Mitchell Avenue presently. So as I mentioned, there were 2 houses historically, although both have been demolished, and the site is primarily wooded, although there are some areas that were previously lawn disturbed that are now overgrown. There is one driveway that has a right-of-way through the site that provides access to a single-family home just abutting Cheshire Hillside Village. In terms of topography, the highest point on this property is approximately elevation 230 on the western side of the site, closest to Route 10. And the lowest point is along a wetland corridor to the southeast, and also another wetland corridor to the northeast, both approximately elevation 190 plus or minus. Historically, there's been no formal drainage on this property. East Mitchell Avenue drains the entirety of the road, just simply drains through the property and meanders through and enters into an intermittent watercourse to the north. And the remainder of the property on the south side drains to a stream that originates, I believe, from Maplecroft Plaza, crosses Route 10, goes behind some commercial properties in along Cheshire Hillside Village, and is culverted beneath the driveway for Cheshire Hillside, and again culverted beneath the driveway to the single-family home to the southeast. There are wetlands associated with this stream located on the property, although for the most part, the stream is located just off the parcel, with some of the associated wetlands just on the parcel as you get in the corner of the site. Additionally, there is a intermittent stream, which is essentially a groundwater seep, more or less, in the northeast corner of the property. And the wetlands were flagged last year by Peter Shea of our office. In terms of available utilities, we do have public water, electricity within East Mitchell Avenue, and there is public sanitary sewer located to the south, adjacent to the stream that I just spoke about. And we have gotten approval for connection, feasibility approval for connection from the WPCA. What we're proposing as part of this development, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, is a multifamily residential development apartment complex with 5 individual buildings, one located on the western side of the property, the other 4 generally on the eastern side of the site. As I mentioned before, East Mitchell Avenue just kind of ends. There's no formal turnaround, no formal hammerhead or cul-de-sac. So as part of this proposal, we are going to be looking to build a cul-de-sac to town standards. At this time, we envision that that would be transferred to the town, although that would remain to be seen with planning and zoning if and when we make that application. Parking is provided for the 5 residential buildings, which will have a total of 56 dwelling units, the vast majority of which I believe are 2-bedroom units. Parking in the form of 96 surface spaces, and we have 16 garage spaces located in a couple clusters, one being 11 garage spaces here and one having 5 garage spaces here. The parking is roughly evenly distributed between the proposed buildings, with the intent being that the applicant would build this in phases so that each building would have adequate parking and a completed site in the vicinity of their building while they moved on to the next structure and parking in the vicinity of the next structure. So there's no request for any reduction in spaces. We are meeting the town zoning regulations with respect to number of parking spaces. The grading of the site attempts to take advantage of the changes in topography, with 2 of the buildings having a split level between 3 floors on the upper side and 3 floors on the lower side and 2 floors on the upper side, and that is buildings number 1 and 5, 1 being the west, 5 being the north. Buildings 2, 3, and 4 are all going to be 3-level buildings, all on the same grade, because there's really a relatively flat areas where these structures are proposed. The existing access to the residential property to the southeast is being maintained in its present location, and we are sort of designing our site around that existing access and driveway to the neighboring property, including respecting their utility connection locations and of course the driveway itself. Landscaping, we have a fairly robust landscaping plan that includes plantings around disturbed areas associated with our stormwater management system, which I'll get to shortly. Robust foundation planting plans, a typical one being shown in the upper part of this sheet on the layout and landscaping plan. Shade trees within parking areas and appropriate seed mix and vegetation styles for stormwater management features, both in the north and the south of the site. This rendering is of the proposed site utility plan. And what we're looking to do with the utility plan, of course, is to collect and convey stormwater runoff from the parcel and from off-site areas, and convey it in a manner that allows for safe passage and conveyance of the 10-year storm. And we are directing the site runoff into 3 separate locations. The first of which will be a collection system that will take drainage from East Mitchell Avenue itself, which, as I mentioned before, is currently uncontrolled and just discharges directly into the property with no formal drainage or easements. It will pick that up in the road where we're doing a little bit of road widening and directing it to the intermittent water course where it drains today. Along this, we'll also include some yard drain structures that will collect overland flow from neighboring properties, again, which discharge directly onto the site without any formal drainage system. So we'll be collecting offsite runoff, offsite from the road, offsite from other properties, and directing it to the intermittent stream where it goes today. And in terms of additional impervious from on-site activities, which include buildings, parking, the cul-de-sac itself, which is an increase in impervious area, we're directing those to either of one of 2 stormwater management basins. Again, one to the north, one to the south. And both of these basins are designed to include a CDS unit, which is a proprietary oil and grit separator designed to remove 80% of suspended solids and floatable debris from the stormwater runoff, where it will then discharge into a stormwater management basin, which will include a sediment forebay, water quality volume in accordance with the DEEP water quality manual, where it will then be detained and pass through all the control structures to a level spreader discharge. The level spreader is designed so that there's no discharge from the level spreader greater than 2 feet per second to control any erosive velocities of stormwater exiting the basin. In terms of other utilities, we're collecting sanitary sewer from each of the proposed buildings and directing it to a common sanitary sewer main, which will connect into the existing sanitary sewer on the south side of the site. So in terms of regulated activities, we have 3 sort of distinct areas of regulated activities, all within the upland review area and no direct wetland impacts. The first of which is associated with the stormwater discharge from the road and from offsite areas, along with the stormwater management basin and discharge to the north. That area totals about 7,426, or about exactly 7,426 square feet. The stormwater basin to the southeast, which is partially constructed within the upland review area, and the discharge out towards the brook consists of 8,175 square feet of impact in the upland review area. And lastly, the connection to the sanitary sewer, which is the only place where we connect on the site, would have approximately 1,550 square feet of impact, all within the upland review area. There are no direct wetland impacts associated with this development. Also, we do have a thoroughly designed sediment erosion control plan designed in accordance with the 2002 guidelines for sediment and erosion control, and which include temporary sediment traps, hay bales, silt fence, inlet protection, construction entrance pads, and detailed construction sequencing. So that's a brief overview of our proposed application. We did receive comments from Wright Pierce Engineering. Excuse me for 1 second. I got to close the door because my daughter's singing downstairs. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry about that. She was singing Frozen downstairs at the top of her lungs. Hard to say no to that, but you know, we have a wetlands we need to deal with. So we did receive comments from Wright Pierce Engineering, and I did have a discussion with the engineer who did those plans and those comments, and I believe he didn't quite understand some elements of our stormwater report, but I clarified for him the design of our stormwater basins, which I think he was assuming considered the possibility or the likelihood of infiltration, which I confirmed for him that our basins generally do not rely on infiltration unless we have very, very good intelligence on underlying soil conditions, which would be of a sandy nature, where we could comfortably account for and expect infiltration. In this particular case, we did not provide for or assume any infiltration. Our basins are designed with no infiltration and will still provide no increase in runoff for the 10, 25, 50, 100-year storms without infiltration into the underlying soils. Having said that, we are going to perform test bits in the vicinity of the 2 proposed basins just to see what soil we encounter. Their other comments were primarily related to storm drainage, and I feel very confident that we can address their comments or provide suitable responses to their comments prior to the next meeting. So with that, I would open up the discussion to any questions the members may have.
Brian, let me start off by saying that this one thing that strikes me is there seems to be a lot of diversion of water that's presently running almost directly to the east, of running it north and then into that more northerly basin there. And I'm wondering how that affects how much water is getting into the more southerly part of the stream. In this case, the stream's running from south to north. It seems to me you're intercepting water that presently runs into the more southerly upstream part of the stream and putting it in further downstream. I don't know how that might affect the ecology along the stream.
Well, I think that raises a good point in that when we had discussions with the engineering department months ago when we went to the WPCA, they were concerned about flooding complaints that they've received from the neighbor to the southeast, and that they would prefer that any collection of stormwater be discharged downstream of their driveway crossing where they've had overtopping in the past. So I think the intent of why we have the discharge located primarily in the location we do are 2 reasons. One is that it's a very gentle grade where we have our level spreader discharge. And there's also, we're beyond the driveway crossing for the neighboring property owner. So it'll help to alleviate, well, essentially no runoff from our proposed site improvements will be conveyed to the stream prior to his driveway crossing. So that's primarily the reason.
I can appreciate that for as far as the driveway crossing, because that portion of that stream that is running essentially west to east is primarily an artificial channel historically, and has almost no wetland development associated with it.
Right.
Whereas the portion of the stream running south to north has managed to establish a available wetland colonization going on there. And
now, when you say, I just for orientation purposes, Dr. Dimick, I'm not sure which portion you're referring to.
The portion where the stream that's coming from Maplecroft and coming down past the present East Mitchell development there, that's pretty much an artificial channel historically.
Right, that's and the wetland associated with that stream are essentially right on the edge of the stream itself.
No, but once we get to where we're into the part that's flowing from south to north, the stream there, as I remember it. Now,
you're talking about off the site over here.
Yeah, that portion is much more natural conditions. And that's where I was worried if we are depriving that area of water that historically has been part of its what keeps it going.
I'm going to our site plans just because I think it's the existing conditions plan might be a little more clear in terms of the topography. So most of this site, if not all of it, with the exception of a small area along the easterly border, drains towards the intermittent stream over here. So essentially all this area in here, all this area drains to the intermittent stream or to the stream to the south. Very little portion of this site, except for the absolute rearmost areas, drain directly to the abutting property to the so we're trying to essentially mimic what happens under existing conditions for the most part, not 100% exclusively, but almost all the site, with the exception of a sliver perhaps along here.
Okay,
And then a little bit along the back here that drain to the east. Everything else drains to the north or to the south to either the artificial stream, as you refer to it, or the groundwater seep over in this area.
okay, that clarifies somewhat. You know, it's just what my initial impression was when seeing all of your piping, your stormwater piping, trying to take carrying water north.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I certainly I can appreciate the question. I just I think the topography sort of clarifies what really doesn't get to the east.
Okay, I'm going to open this to other commission members that might have questions. I think we do want to have some written clarification of the different viewpoints of the town engineering consultant and what you have. So make sure we have that
Of course.
clear in the record.
Yeah, I fully expect within the coming week or so after we perform soil tests and based on the conversation that I had with them today, I'm certain we can resolve any issues. I don't think what they had is something that we can't overcome or would result in significant changes to the plans as you see them. So, but yeah, we'll be happy to provide that prior to the next meeting.
Suzanne, do you have questions? You're just shaking your head no, but I guess
Oh, no, I said no. Sorry, you couldn't hear me.
no. Well, the next part then is this of great enough significance that we need a public hearing on it, or can we just move to touch it up a little bit and go ahead on it? What are people's feelings?
I don't think there's enough people affected by this to merit a public hearing.
Okay, I just need to have that on the record. I agree with you, but I just don't want to always be the one stating everything. So what we're looking for at this stage is see anything that we think ought to be modified on it, and then possibly give Suzanne clearance to write up some kind of proposed permit wording. Is that your feeling?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Don't all speak at once.
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Charles.
Answers? SLR?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Was that a question directed to me? I'm not
Well, I
sure.
was talking to the commission. Don't you think we should wait on a draft motion until we get the comments and the answers that you have from the town engineer and your company, Ryan?
I understood that's what Charles was asking for, that we were ready to move ahead to the next meeting, but we're going to do it without a public hearing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, only a public hearing, no.
No public hearing, and we
And
need
Dr.
to
Dimick-
do a little polish on it. We need to make sure we have those engineering comments clarified. Other than that, I don't
Dr.
see-
Dimick, if I could just add to the record, when the commission is considering whether or not to have a public hearing, just to put on the record for anyone that's watching this, that the commission is not only looking at things from how they might predict the public might be interested, so that the commission is not charged with, if there's a certain number of people around this property, that then they are required to hold a public hearing. That the commission can evaluate if the site conditions require a public hearing, if the impacts to the wetlands or the upland review area requires a public hearing, or if there's public interest. So I just wanted to put that on the record.
Okay, good enough. I think a lot of us just know that by heart and didn't bother saying it. Thank you for
Yes,
the clarification.
I just wanted to state that for anyone that might be viewing that is
Yeah.
unfamiliar with the commission and the regulations.
Certainly over the years, we've had public hearing for any one of those
Yes.
three reasons. So, but I at this stage, I don't see any one of the three weighing in there, and I don't see other commission members feeling that way either. So we
And
will
also
just,
for the record, I have not been contacted by any neighbors expressing any concern or posing any questions.
no. Okay. Well, we'll just move ahead and continue this on for the next meeting then. And if there's no problem, we'll move ahead to item 7 under unfinished business. This is request for determination Elam Park. Questions were raised last time about possible need for secondary containment for the oil storage for the generators. And I believe that may have been adequately answered. Tim, you were one of those raising that concern.
Yes, yeah, I did see the information that was forwarded.
So I don't see anything else that's a problem. Does anybody else? So it's still request for determination. What we need is, if there's no problems, a statement. The commission has determined that the permit, that the impact of wetlands is de minimis and a permit is not required. Is that, anybody want to do that wording? Don't all rush.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Charles.
Okay, Earl Kurtz moves. And I'm trying to tell is
I'll second that.
Tom Norback seconds. Any further discussion before we go ahead or vote on this one? Sensing you're ready to vote, all in favor signify by raising your right hand.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, same sign. Unanimous vote of commission members present that we've determined the permit is not required for this, and then go ahead and do what they're going to do.
Thank you, commissioners. Appreciate the time and attention.
Thank you.
Try to do the best we can to satisfy everybody. Of course, sometimes we satisfy nobody, but that's another problem. New business, request for determination, Scotland Hardwoods, Wallingford Road, forestry project. We get these on a regular basis from Scotland Hardwoods. And
Yes, and Mr. Chairman, Rod Burgess from Scotland Hardwoods is on the call tonight. And the commission was provided with his copy of the request as well as the application and my staff review. And looking at the soils map, the property does contain watercourses and wetland soils on the property. However, as is indicated in the letter for the request as well as the application from Mr. Burgess, there are no water crossings that are required for this property, and that they will be conducting the forestry on the interior of the lot. So Mr. Burgess, you're on the call. Do you have anything you'd like to add and address to the commission?
No, hopefully you can all hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so yeah, as you had stated, Suzanne, the project is off of Wallingford Road. I don't know if you all have the Exhibit B, which outlines the property in the cutting area. Do they have that, Suzanne? Or?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so as you'd mentioned, the cutting area, which on Exhibit B is identified by the yellow if you have the colored copy. And as you can see, there's two main drainages which are kind of enclose that area. So there is no crossings on the property, and all of the skid roads and the yarding area are in place from the previous logging that we did, which was about 20 years ago.
that was my memory. So I was going to say 20 years. So that's about right.
Yeah.
We walked it 20 years ago, I think. Checked it out.
Yeah, so again, the Exhibit A outlines the particulars as far as the project, but you know, it's standard procedure in terms of a lot of the other parcels that we've put before you in terms of the fact that trees are marked, and there's one staging area involved with this parcel. which is identified back on Exhibit B with the red dot out right off Wallingford Road. And there's actually a bit of a paved tracking pad that goes in there. And I've mentioned in the write-up that we're going to put additional stone there to reinforce the tracking pad as far as the trucks coming out of the landing.
Is this another one of those areas where we got ash trees that had to come out?
Yeah, this particular parcel, it's mentioned in the Exhibit A write-up that 90% of the white ash trees will be removed because of the emerald ash borer. But having said that, there's only about, I would say, 5% of this total area is involved with ash. So it's different from the previous 2 or 3 parcels where there was a lot of ash. But there is a little bit, and it is dead.
Is that lumber treated separately, the ash, because of transport?
It's not, no, it's not treated separately because it's transported to our mill, and there's no restrictions in terms of the transport of that in state. The situation becomes a little more complicated when the lumber is processed at the mill and transported overseas. Then they have protocol they have to adhere to.
Does anyone see any reason they would need a permit for this work?
Nope.
No.
Good.
Okay. I'm looking for entertaining
I move that
emotions.
we determine that the wetlands are de minimis
And that the permit is not
and a
required.
permit is not required.
I'll second that.
Tom Norback, seconded by Earl Kurtz. So if we're ready to vote, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Unanimous commission members present that we've determined that a permit is not required for this particular project. Thank you for making sure you check in with us on this. It makes it easier.
Yeah, I appreciate your time as well. Thank
And
you.
also, Rod, before you go, there is also the application. So would you like to withdraw the application?
Yes, I would.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Bye.
Next item is request for bond release from the FIP on West Johnson Avenue. Previous part of the meeting, Suzanne said she had inspected the property and everything seems to be in good shape. And I did a cursory inspection myself on this. Suzanne, I think you had wording for
Yes,
proposed.
there's a draft motion to release the bond.
So that
Isn't
draft,
Staff wording.
being replaced with a letter of credit, because they still have to, they have inspection responsibilities, right, for the next couple of years?
Yes, and that is separate from this. This is just for the erosion controls.
Oh, okay.
so moved by Tom Norback to staff wording. Was there a second?
Yeah,
Second.
I couldn't catch who.
I believe that was Dave.
Dave, okay. Dave Brzezowski is seconded. And any further discussion? All in favor signify by raising your right hand.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Unanimous motion of the commission members present to pass the wording granting the request for bond release. Oh, last item under new business.
Yes,
Permit
Dr.
application.
Dimick.
Yes,
So this is here just for date of receipt. There is no presentation tonight. This will be taken up at the September 7th meeting.
so I think that we have, the end is in sight.
Yes, so there's no further business to discuss tonight.
If there is no objection, then we are adjourned for the evening. See you all in September.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, gang.
Good night.